Hi, I'm Kiri. Take a moment to picture your absolute favorite food. Maybe it's a warm, crusty loaf of bread, a creamy bar of chocolate, or a perfectly ripe avocado. Think about the memories you have with it: family dinners, celebrations, or just a comforting meal after a long day. Now imagine walking into your local supermarket, searching for that food, and finding the shelf completely empty. Not just for a day or two, but for weeks, months, or even longer. It's not just a matter of being sold out or waiting for the next delivery. It's as if your favorite food has simply vanished, gone from the shelves with no sign of when or if it will ever return. The space where it once sat is now just a reminder of how much we take for granted the foods we love. This scenario might sound like something out of a dystopian movie, but for millions of people around the world, it's quickly becoming a reality. News headlines are filled with stories of food shortages, rationing, and families struggling to find basic ingredients. The global food system, once seen as a marvel of modern logistics, is showing cracks. Climate chaos is causing droughts, floods, and unpredictable weather that devastate crops. Geopolitical shocks like wars, trade disputes, and export bans disrupt the flow of food across borders. And supply chain breakdowns, from labor shortages to transportation bottlenecks, mean that even when food is grown, it doesn't always reach our plates. All these factors are making our food system more fragile than ever before. Today we're going to cut through the noise and focus on the foods that experts say are most at risk of disappearing first. We'll look at a list of 11 everyday staples, foods you probably eat all the time, that could soon become rare, expensive, or even extinct from our diets if current trends continue. Together, we'll explore why these foods are so vulnerable, tracing their journey from the fields where they're grown to the global markets that bring them to our tables. We'll uncover the hidden challenges threatening their survival and what it means for all of us. Let's get started. Let's start with coffee, the world's favorite ritual. For millions around the globe, the day doesn't truly begin until that first sip of coffee. Whether it's a quiet moment at home, a bustling cafe with friends, or a quick cup grabbed on the way to work, coffee is woven into the fabric of our mornings. It's more than just a drink. It's a comforting routine, a pause before the rush, and a shared experience that connects people across cultures and continents. At the heart of this ritual is Arabica, the bean behind most specialty coffee. Arabica is prized for its delicate flavors and smooth finish, but it's also incredibly sensitive to its environment. Unlike its hardier cousin, Robusta, Arabica requires very specific conditions to thrive: cool temperatures, consistent rainfall, and rich, shaded soil. Even small changes in climate can have dramatic effects on the quality and yield of these beans. But those perfect conditions are disappearing. As global temperatures rise and weather patterns become more unpredictable, the land suitable for growing Arabica is shrinking. Farmers are being forced to move their crops higher up mountains in search of cooler air and more stable conditions. But mountains only go so high, and soon, there will be nowhere left to climb. The once lush and expansive coffee-growing regions are now patchworks, with each year bringing new challenges. These changing conditions also create the perfect breeding ground for diseases like coffee leaf rust. This devastating fungus thrives in warmer, wetter climates, attacking coffee plants and destroying entire harvests. For small farmers, a single outbreak can mean the loss of a year's income, or worse, the end of their livelihood. The emotional toll is immense, as generations of knowledge and tradition are threatened by forces beyond their control. As yields drop and risks rise, many small farmers are abandoning coffee altogether. Some switch to other crops that are more resilient, while others leave farming behind in search of new opportunities. The communities built around coffee, families, workers, entire villages, are left facing an uncertain future. The loss isn't just economic, it's cultural, as the rituals and stories tied to coffee begin to fade. The result? The coffee that does make it to our cups is often lower in quality, while prices soar. Specialty beans become rare, and the familiar taste we love starts to change. For many, that daily cup becomes a luxury, something to be savored on special occasions rather than enjoyed every morning. Supermarket shelves may sit empty or be filled with blends that barely resemble the coffee we once knew. Soon, most of us may only remember coffee as a rare treat, a nostalgic memory of better times. The simple pleasure of sharing a cup with friends, the comfort of a warm mug in hand, could become stories we tell our children, rather than experiences we live each day. The morning ritual, for millions, could be the first casualty of our changing world. As we face the realities of climate change, we may have to say goodbye to the daily comfort that coffee brings. a small but profound loss that reminds us how deeply our lives are connected to the planet's health. Rice is the staple for half the world, but it's in trouble. It needs huge amounts of water, yet Asia's great rivers are drying up or flooding unpredictably. Rising sea levels push salt into rice fields, ruining crops. When big producers like India face shortages, they ban exports, sending prices soaring and triggering panic worldwide. Rice's journey to our plates depends on stable water, climate, and cooperation. Three things in short supply. If rice disappears, the humanitarian impact would be catastrophic. Honey's decline is a warning sign for all agriculture. Bees are dying from pesticides, habitat loss, parasites, and climate chaos. Without bees, not only does honey vanish, but so do countless fruits, vegetables, and nuts. When honey becomes scarce, it's not just your tea that's at risk, it's a third of our food supply. The disappearance of honey signals a much wider crisis. Wheat is the backbone of bread, pasta, and noodles. For thousands of years, this humble grain has been at the heart of human civilization, feeding empires and families alike. From the rolling fields of the American Midwest to the vast steppes of Ukraine, wheat has shaped cultures, economies, and diets. It's more than just a crop. It's a lifeline woven into the daily rituals of billions of people around the world. But this lifeline is under threat. Wars, like the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, have shown how quickly violence and instability can choke off global wheat supplies. Ukraine, often called the breadbasket of Europe, once exported grain to feed millions. Now, fields lie fallow, silos stand empty, and the world feels the shockwaves as supply chains break down. The ripple effects reach far beyond the front lines, touching every corner of the globe. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty. Heat waves scorch the land, droughts parch the soil, and unpredictable weather patterns shrink yields and shift growing zones. Farmers who once relied on steady seasons now face a future where every harvest is a gamble. The breadbasket is breaking, not just from war, but from a changing planet. Even when wheat is grown, getting it to those who need it is a challenge. Disrupted logistics, blocked ports, low rivers, and congested shipping lanes can leave mountains of grain stranded far from hungry mouths. A single bottleneck can mean the difference between abundance and scarcity. The global wheat market is a delicate balance. One bad harvest, a sudden trade dispute, or a spike in fuel prices can send costs soaring overnight. For farmers, it means uncertainty. For consumers, it means paying more for the basics, or sometimes not being able to afford them at all. For some, these disruptions mean expensive groceries and tough choices at the checkout. For others, especially in vulnerable regions, it means empty shelves, skipped meals, and the very real threat of hunger. The impact is uneven, but the pain is shared. The simple loaf of bread, once a symbol of abundance and comfort, now stands as a stark reminder of how fragile our food system has become. In a world of growing risks, even the most basic staple is no longer guaranteed. Soybeans are everywhere, hidden in processed foods and essential for animal feed. Three countries dominate production: the US, Brazil, and Argentina. Deforestation, drought, and trade wars threaten this fragile supply. A soybean shortage would spike meat and dairy prices and disrupt global diets. Soy is the hidden linchpin of our food system, and it's under threat. Corn is in everything, from animal feed to sweeteners to fuel. It's vulnerable to drought, heat, and water shortages, especially in the US Midwest. The Ogallala aquifer is running dry, and climate extremes are hitting harder. Ethanol production pits food against fuel, driving up prices. A corn crisis would ripple through meat, processed foods, and global food security. If King Corn falls, much of the food kingdom falls with it. Chocolate's future is precarious. Most cacao comes from just 2 West African countries, both facing climate stress and disease. Cacao trees are sensitive, and farmers are leaving the industry as profits dwindle. Expect chocolate to get more expensive and lower in quality. High-quality chocolate may soon be a rare luxury, not an everyday treat. Olive oil, the heart of Mediterranean cuisine, is in crisis. Drought and heat waves are devastating harvests in Spain and Italy. A deadly bacterium, Xylella, is wiping out ancient groves. Prices are soaring and fraud is rising as real olive oil becomes scarce. The loss of affordable, authentic olive oil threatens both diets and culture. Seafood is vanishing from our plates. Overfishing, pollution, and climate change are decimating fish stocks. Plastic and chemical pollution poison marine life, while warming waters force fish to migrate. Ocean acidification threatens the very foundation of marine ecosystems. As familiar species disappear, we're left with less desirable, more expensive options. The collapse of seafood is the collapse of the world's largest ecosystem. The potato, a humble staple, faces old and new threats. Blight, the same disease behind the Irish famine, is resurging with erratic weather. Drought and heat stress reduce yields and quality. Potatoes rely on fragile supply chains. Any disruption means waste and shortages. Most commercial potatoes are genetically similar, making them vulnerable to new diseases. The lesson of the Irish famine is one we risk repeating. Tomatoes are everywhere, but their supply is fragile. Grown in drought-prone regions, they need lots of water and are vulnerable to disease. Long, complex supply chains mean any disruption, drought, pests, transport, can empty shelves. A single crisis in a key region can create a global shortage of sauces, pastes, and fresh tomatoes. 11 foods, all at risk, reveal the fragility of our food system. Understanding these risks is the first step to resilience. Support local farmers, reduce food waste, and advocate for sustainable policies. Stay informed, share this video, and help build a more secure food future. Thank you for watching. Always consult a professional for personalized advice.